Hey, Will, what are you doing?
I'm grabbing a glass of wine, man.
Brother, you know we have a podcast to do.
I know, I'm trying to keep from spilling this wine. Hey friends, this is Will.
Hey everyone, this is Michael.
And welcome to We Know Texas Vino.
Cheers. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is episode number 9 of We Know Texas Vino. Super happy to be here. Will, good seeing you again, my friend.
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Everything's good. So hey, this is Michael.
And this is Will. So welcome back to the program.
Yep.
We are fired up to share some more quality time with you. We have a blast with our first 8 episodes.
They've been fun, haven't they?
And yes, they have been. And we are pumped to be here at Alford, Texas. Is that correct? Is that the pronunciation?
Alford.
Alford. Oh, let's pronounce it properly.
Alford.
Alford, Texas.
You're still not there.
Yeah.
Alford.
Alvord.
Oh, did
There
I
you
spell
go.
it wrong?
No,
Alvord.
you spelled it correctly.
Okay, but that's how you say it.
And Mark, how do the originals say
And
it?
if you lived here for 100 years, it's known as Alvoid.
Oh, Alvoid.
What kind of word is that? Is that German?
French.
It's French, probably with Francais. Gotcha.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're hanging out here at Markers Cellar's family winery in the LBJ National Grasslands. We have some really cool people here with us. We have Mark and we have Casey, and then we just met Becky as well.
Yeah.
We'll describe Becky here in a minute. But welcome, Mark and Casey. Glad you're here today.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We're
welcome.
glad you're here too.
Yeah. So we always start off, this is a new transition for us, but we're starting
Yes.
off drinking wine today.
Yep.
So maybe you two can share. What am I drinking right now? I'm having a great glass of red wine. What are we drinking here?
Yeah, you are drinking our Texas blend. We haven't released it to the public yet. It'll
Uh-oh.
come out in a couple weeks. So
So
y'all
we're
are getting a
special.
sneak
We're spoiled.
peek. 7 varietals out of the from Dr. Reddy out in Lubbock.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow,
And I'm
really?
enjoying it. It's a very, very nice wine.
Yes,
I've
it is.
been warm my belly here, and I'm feeling really good already this afternoon.
I know.
It's a good Sunday.
Yeah, that's
Definitely a
exciting.
good Sunday on this foggy,
Yeah.
cool, chilly, weird Sunday.
And you know what's cool, Will, is it's not one bottle of wine they brought out for us to try. I think we've had a couple of wineries and a couple winemakers and owners who brought out a couple bottles. They have brought out 6 bottles for us to try.
Oh, not just 6, but there's some cider there too.
There's ciders. We're going to talk about that. Well, cool. Will, where can they find us? So how can they locate us?
So you can find us on Facebook at We Know Texas Vino. You can find our podcast on any major podcasting station like Apple Podcast or Stitcher or Spotify.
And how's that going so far?
It's looking good.
Yeah,
In
we're
fact,
excited.
our last episode that we put out, Lonesome Vine. Are y'all familiar with Lonesome Vine?
I was there last week.
I love those
Fun.
guys out there. And
They're
actually, they're our biggest download in one day.
How many was that?
It was 35 in one day.
Just in one day, 35, yeah.
And so, this is going to go back to, this is our shout out for Marissa and Jen. This is talk about Grayson here.
Yeah.
And, RK was our biggest episode. It was 25 in one day.
Okay, 25. Yeah, so things are improving, and our goal obviously is by June we want several hundred on day 1, day 2, and so it's just a big process here. So you're listening to We Know Texas Vino, episode 9 from Alvord,
Alvord.
There you go.
Texas,
Absolutely.
and we're here at Marker Cellars Family Winery. Welcome, both of you, Mark and Casey. Thanks for being here
welcome.
today.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Well, we are excited. We've already had a great time here. I know I brought my wife today. She's out in the tasting room. We're right in the do everything room, as Mark described it to me. I'm looking at huge barrels of wine and just an amazing scene out here. So we're kind of in behind the scenes right now. So, Mark, what's your role here, my friend? What do you got going on here?
I'm the patriarch here, and started this thing way, way, way back, and we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But I'm still making wine. I don't make the cider. We've brought in a gentleman by the name of Dave Trosco to take on that endeavor. It's just another new trick I didn't want to learn.
You're right.
But I'm the face of this organization. We've been open for 10 years, and so
Okay, that's good to know.
And with 400 wine club members, a lot of folks know me and want to press the flesh when they come in and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And then Casey came into my life 4 years ago, and she and I have made a kinship and a friendship that goes very, very deep, and she's the future.
That's wonderful.
Awesome.
I can tell they have a great relationship for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. And, it's always good when you get somebody that come into your life like that just impresses you, and you just became like, I don't know if it's kindred spirits or whatever, but you just kind of like they make an impression on you, and they become part of you.
Well, it's part of the legacy, I would imagine. I mean, you've been working hard. I met your beautiful wife, and you guys have, I think I heard you come from real estate or mortgage company or something. I'll learn that here in a moment. Then you get a young, enthusiastic kid from the West Coast who comes in, and that's a blessing, isn't it? That's really nice to have someone who can complement what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a great compliment to our history and story.
It's fantastic. Awesome. Well, you guys are here, and we're in again, your tasting room here. So, Casey, we're glad to have you here, and I've taught you a little bit, and I like your style a lot, and I understand you're a West Coast girl, so we have something in common there for sure. We'll talk about it in a while, but tell me about the tasting room, and then I understand that you are expanding. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
I can. So we've been out here for 10 years now and recently found a historical building in downtown Bridgeport off of the main street that runs through town called Halsell. And
What is it called?
Halsell Street.
Okay. How do you spell that?
Halsell.
That was like a spelling bee.
Look at me go.
I thought she was trying to say hustle.
You have to use
but
it in a
was
sentence.
One glass of wine and I'm on a spelling bee. So in May or June, we'll be moving over there. We gutted the building
That's
and
great.
completely renovated it and took it to a beautiful state. And I am so excited to get it open to the public.
Awesome. So when are y'all opening? You said in June?
It's going to be May or June. Yeah.
May or June. Okay.
We started right before the holidays, so we had a little bit of a holiday slowdown, but we're getting there.
Okay.
That's great. And a lot of times we've met many wineries, right, where they're expanding and they're like shipping issues, supply chain, getting good work. And so I don't know if you've run into that a little bit over there.
You
it's
name
like
it.
May or, okay, you
Yeah,
name it. Yeah.
you name it.
We interviewed someone recently, one of the winemakers, and actually ownership. She was great. And she just said, I'd asked her a question. I said, what are some of the obstacles? And she goes, actually rephrase that question. I go, what do you mean? She goes, what isn't an obstacle in this business, right? So Mark, you've been doing this for, I heard, 10 years. Is that correct? So maybe what are some of the successes you've had here? I mean, it's such a great location.
Well, it's been an interesting ride. The short version is I was a home winemaker starting in 2002. Went to Grayson County College in 2005, 2006. Decided I wanted to make a life change eventually from my mortgage finance career and whatnot.
Yep.
Found this property, bought it in 2007. You've met my wife. She's an equestrian. We're surrounded by the grasslands. We have access to the grasslands from the back and from the side gates, working in conjunction with the National Forest Service.
Oh, that's great.
And so opened this winery in a very, very small space, as other people have told you about their experience or what have you. Small tasting room in 2012. And what I saw was the traction that we were growing incrementally year after year after year. I was still working full time. This was only open on the weekends.
Wow.
Until I retired from my day job back about 6 years ago. And since then, open 4 days a week, but still work 7 days a week in this business. The rewards have been many, too many to waste your time on, but the recognition and the reward that comes from being a part of the community, being part of the Texas Wine and Grapes Association, and those friendships and that will last forever because we all work together to make this work. That and then the veterans program that we started here, which we can get into later, the payback associated with one series of wine that we've made over the years has grown legs with first responders, et cetera, to give back to them as well as to reward us.
Wow.
And we'll talk about that later.
That's a vision.
So that hits home with me because I've got family members that are ex-military and recently found out that someone in my family was actually in D-Day. And so it was kind of, you kind of hit a little soft spot on me right there because I even do motorcycle rides with the Irving VFW. In fact, actually, the commanding officer of that post just recently passed away, and it hit me hard.
It's a big thing.
Yeah, it's a big thing. So I commend you for doing that.
And isn't Texas kind of known for that as well? Just some of this Texas pride. We want to celebrate those great veterans and make sure. So congratulations on that. I think that's such a cool twist. It's not even a twist. Cool arrangement or partnership to be able to do that and use this as the foundation.
And it was unplanned.
Okay.
And now it's intertwined with not only our history, but also with wine, right?
Yes.
And that has been one of the other rewarding things that Casey's going to carry on.
Absolutely,
Awesome.
That's fantastic. Legacy. There we are again. Legacy.
It's that's probably another key word. So there's two key words that we hear in every winery that we go to. It's family And legacy.
And passion. So was that 3 words?
3 words. Yeah, 3 words. Passion too. Yeah.
You almost have to have a passion, though. I'm sure Mark is laughing inside. You got to have something, spirited in you to continue this rugged work and then continue to build what you have.
For this business, you should not be in it.
You should not be in it. That's
Exactly.
correct. Yeah.
So tell me, where did you get that passion from? Because I read your bio. So where did that passion came from?
Okay. So 1985 makes me sound older than dirt, but 1985, some people hired me to move to L.A. and help them rebuild a company because I was an operations guy. And in so doing, I grew up in Lubbock and Midland.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know
The
that. Okay.
flatlands, right? So moving to California was like a whole unique experience for me and my family. And I said, man, this place is cool. How could you ever be bored and live here? You can be at the mountains and be at the beach in the same day.
That's right.
And so anyway, so on the weekends, we would put the kids in the car, take off, go to every state park, national park, go to the beach, go beach camping, etc. And then on Sundays, on our way back into LA, because I had to go to work or fly out the next day, we would stop at mom and pop wineries. A lot of them in the Santa Ynez Valley, just north of Santa Barbara.
Okay.
Because access was easy, or Temecula, either one. But anyway, on one particular occasion, about 1989, we made it to Fess Parker Winery. So we go in, my wife and I, and we're milling around the tasting room and whatnot, and I see this gray-haired gentleman sitting in the back. And after him hearing my wife with her East Texas accent, he kind of ambled over and said, "Y'all aren't from around here, are you?" And I said, "No, sir. We just moved here. We've been here from Texas, and this and this and that." And he says, "Well, welcome." And and then Fess said, "Here, come here, take me." He took me in the back, and so we did a little tasting just behind the curtain,
private,
and whatnot. Yeah. And he kind of took me under his wing only from a mentoring standpoint. And then so we would go back weekend after weekend after weekend. And then finally, fast forward to 1994, and the company that we had built, we had decided to close the facility in LA and move it to Texas.
Oh, wow.
For a lot of reasons.
Okay.
Quality of life for people,
Sure.
because they were commuting 2 hours one way each day and stuff like that. But anyway, on the last couple of visits, visiting with Fess and his grandson, he said, "Mark, you can grow grapes in Texas. I'm challenging you to go back, and if you're able to buy some property, I'll send you cuttings, or you can get your own cuttings and plant a test vineyard and just to see what you can do." So that was my inspiration
Absolutely.
to come back. And just thinking, again, I don't want to steal this. 85, I knew nothing about wine. 94, it was in my blood. I had the poison, so to speak.
Drink the Kool-Aid.
In my blood.
Was it Kool-Aid we're drinking? No.
Yeah.
It's good Kool-Aid.
And so
It's good Kool-Aid.
that was the inspiration that got me started, and we bought 5.5 acres in Argyle. I planted a test vineyard of about 1/4 of an acre because my wife had the rest for horses, and the rest kind of just evolved from
Yep.
there.
That's how it happens, doesn't it? It just evolves from almost like this spark or this light bulb above your head, and then boom into what we have now, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's always amazing. Every story that we tell, or not tell, every story we get told,
That we hear.
it's the other T word.
Yes.
Everything starts from a spark. Something ignites them.
But isn't that with anything in life, though?
Yeah.
Whether you're an athlete or you're a public speaker or you're in the mortgage industry, there's something that gets you. But that's why we're fascinated with wine ownership and wine mentorship and wine growing opportunities because of the passion. It's pretty darn awesome. Awesome. Well, let's shift gears real quick. That was fascinating. And so it's interesting to hear. So you were in California originally from Texas, though. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And then you're back home. You're back home, but you're obviously here in North Dallas region, North Texas, which is pretty cool. Casey, let's shift to you real quick. I understand when I bumped into you here a few minutes ago, you're a West Coast girl. Is that correct?
I am.
Oh,
I
my
grew up
gosh.
outside of Portland.
Outside of Portland, so the Willamette Valley. And you know what? The last 3 people who I've met who talked about Willamette wines, I've had to correct them. Casey, does it hurt your nervous system when you hear people say that?
It does. What is
I
it?
have a tick.
Well, I didn't mean to, but Yeah, but Casey's super fun. So you come from the West Coast, so beautiful Willamette Valley, and great stuff out there.
Willamette, damn it.
Willamette, damn it. I love it. And I told you my brother went to the University of Oregon, which is pretty cool. And he's actually coming to town here pretty soon, so I'll have to have him listen to this podcast. But shout out to my brother, Sean. That's pretty cool.
Hi, Sean.
Yep, he's a University of Oregon boy. But so tell us about your experiences over there and how you and your husband ended up being here. And I know you have a 10-year-old as well, but tell us about your story a little bit. How'd you end up here? How did you meet Mark?
That's a very, that's another strange coincidence, but I actually was born in San Antonio, so I guess you could call me a Texas girl to some degree, but I grew up outside of Portland in the burbs. So in Willamette Valley, and went to college in Willamette Valley. Moved out to Chicago, Milwaukee area for my first job out of college. Met my husband not long after, and we moved all over the country for him and for his profession, and got an offer to open a business in Midlothian, and moved back to Texas. And I looked at him and I said, "This is the last place I want to be, and so we're gonna stop in Texas. We're done moving."
Okay.
And we did.
It was the last place you wanted to park your bench, right? You wanted to end up somewhere.
I wanted no more moving boxes. We moved 10 times in 10 years, and I said, we are done. Our kid's older. It's time to settle.
What, you said 10 times in 10 years?
Yep.
Yes.
Ouch.
I could fairly finish unpacking a house before I was turning around and packing it again. And that was the nature of the beast with his business and
So it was his
career.
fault.
Absolutely, it was his fault. Joe, it's your fault.
I know you're listening to this. Listen, buddy, you got to, thank you for sticking your roots down here in Texas. Proud of you. And you made Casey happy.
So now he's a country boy. I bought land, and that's actually how I met Mark. I told the realtor I wanted to be an hour within the airport, and stumbled across Markers Cellars driving around out looking at property.
Interesting.
And much like his experience with Fess, he pulled me in the back in this very room and did a behind the scenes private tasting of some reds that hadn't been out in the tasting room, hadn't been brought in, and I fell in love.
That's awesome.
In a multitude of ways, and I've never left. He can't get rid of me now.
It's always interesting that we find somebody in our life that will just see something in us.
Well, it's a fine line.
Yeah. They see something in every one of us, and they're like, we're going to do something with you. And that's awesome that you did that with her.
Yeah, and we didn't know it that day, I don't think. I didn't sign papers that day.
I'm in.
That's it.
She over time, she learned how she could do some heavy lifting for me.
Excellent.
Because I've been from talking to other wineries, a lot of these folks and us were one-armed paper hangers.
Right.
You're wearing 18 hats, not 7. And she brought with her some specific attributes that would not only help me, but complement me in the maturation of this company.
I just thought I met a cool hippie in the back barrel room, though. I'm not going to lie. That day, I thought I just met a cool winemaking hippie, and it was forever going to be a relationship. But it's just grown into so much more, and I'll forever carry that legacy with me.
Well, I kind of feel like is like a marriage sometimes. Sometimes the opposites attract. And I'm a people person. I come from marketing, and I love people. I love the human beings. I haven't figured out the female species very well yet, but I'm working on that.
Don't even try.
But like Mark is the gentle giant, the thinker. And he's out there, he's creating his vision, he and his amazing wife, of course. Then you get Casey, who's this little spontaneous ball of fire, and it almost complements each other. I'm reading into you a little bit here. Sorry about that, Casey. I think it's a compliment because you just met my wife. I married a ball of fire, okay? And so how cool is it that there's harmony and melody there? That's so cool that you guys found each other, and it's a fine line.
Well, I've never met Casey before, ever, until I called, asked if we can come out here and do this, and I knew that she was a very exciting person.
Yes.
Just the way she was excited when I said, hey, can we come out? And she's like, yes.
Well, she was doing push-ups in the tasting room when I arrived, so she was doing a contest.
Are you serious?
No, she wasn't.
Yeah, I had to bulk up for this interview.
That's
you do know this is not on video, right?
Oh, shoot.
Well, some people can
I was
hear
ready.
the strength.
I was ready.
Well, you guys, we're trying 2 different wines here. So, Mark, real quick, I mean, you're proud of everything. Every winemaker, every ownership, they were like, it's all good, and I get it. But what are you just excited about right now? What's happening? Yeah, he's smiling. That's a good thing. You can't see it, but he's smiling.
Well, since I'm the oldest guy in the room, I would highlight, first of all, the story of the Texas blend, because I told you what Fess had imparted with me about coming back to Texas and testing the water with growing grapes. And so my first creation, if you will, was off that test vineyard where I had 7 rows, 7 different red varieties, testing to see which would do best, which would not do so well, whatever. And then once we started harvesting, we would take everything off, put it into a pot, and make an Italian blend. And that's how the Texas blend started out as a name called Copperhead Red, because we had 14 copperheads one season in our vineyard.
That is an awesome story in itself, isn't it?
And then it grew into Texas blend. And so every vintage we have a Texas blend of some sort.
Okay.
And your drinking today is called a field blend. It's has a great story with it, but we won't go into that now. But it evolved.
Yeah. Well, if I give you a compliment early on in this podcast, I just had a glass and it's fantastic.
Thank
it's
you,
really,
yes.
really nice.
It is.
Yeah. Very, very nice on the palate for sure. Awesome. Well, and then some of the other things, we have 6 bottles out here. What else are we looking at here and why?
So the second thing that we poured,
Yes.
wine that we poured, is called La Sorpresa. It's a Montepulciano, again,
Yummy.
from Texas High Plains Fruit. The gentleman that helped me make this is no longer here. He went to a venture in Iowa to a really big winery, much bigger than us, to go on. But this is just an excellent fruit-forward, very pleasing. The reason we called it La Sorpresa is because the taste gives you a surprise in your mouth and is very, very pleasing. And then we're not to the third one.
Oh, not to the third one.
So this
La Sorpresa.
La Sorpresa, very end, you said a surprise in your mouth. And, that's kind of funny. I was sitting there, I took a sip of it, and I'm like, oh, hello. Oh, hello.
Well, was it confusing, or were you kind of really getting some?
It was confusing at first because I didn't know where to put it at. And then all of a sudden I got that last final taste, and I'm like, oh, hello.
I got something very mature about it. There was
Yes.
something very, very hearty, and I can imagine just sitting back in some sunshine drinking that for sure.
And that's what your wife's drinking in there too.
I'm not
She
surprised.
liked
My
it
wife
right
and
off
I-
the bat.
She
yeah.
did like it right.
Yeah.
That
And right behind you, you'll see the labels. We're about to release
okay.
the reserve version of La Sorpresa, so we're excited
very
about that one.
nice.
Look there.
So we want to talk about reserve when we get to this.
Okay, let's do
Okay.
it for sure. Awesome. Well, that's cool. So, Casey, I mean, you're obviously proud of these things as well, right?
Very.
Mark and Becky have done a great job. They brought you on to complement what they have going on. So, what are some things you're excited about? Not only with a new location but also these wines. What are you seeing with the patrons who come in here, and what are they drinking, and what are they having fun with? And I know everyone's smiling leaving here because I'm already smiling just having 2 glasses of wine. So, what are you excited about, Casey?
Yeah, I'm just excited about the turning tides. I mean, we've gotten to a point now where I can look at Mark and say, hey, I think we need to make this. And
great.
it's from the feedback from our customers and our clients. And, we have older clients and we have younger clients. And I take all of that feedback and I meld it together and I say, hey, Mark, what about this? And you don't want me making wine. I haven't taken the courses and have the certificate, but he will listen to me and we come up with something great. And that's my favorite part is I never know what we're going to make next in general, but I know it's going to be great because he and I will sit back here just like we're doing right now, and we'll do bench trials day after day after day until we look at each other and we say, okay, that's it. But until we have that agreement, it doesn't go in the bottle. And I hope it always stays that way.
So can I clarify that? I know you have some stuff you want to talk about, but so you rely heavily on her, what she's hearing in the tasting room and the customers.
absolutely.
You lean on her, but also I love your confidence. That's so cool because you feel confident enough to make that suggestion to a good man like Mark. And so you guys have that collaboration, that partnership, which is top of the line, right? It's A+.
It's sometimes to his dismay, I think. I came
his
in the other
dismay.
day saying, I want to do this. And he shook his head and walked out and had to think about it for a while. But we always come back to the place of, you put me in charge to help you grow and keep this business lively and happy for everybody. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'll stand my ground on what we need.
It's always amazing. You have a job and you get perks in those jobs. In this job, her perk is I get to drink wine.
On
That's
the
a great
weekdays.
perk.
All the weekdays.
In the
there,
mornings.
During shift.
Yeah, during the shift. I don't know if that's a lot, but maybe it is. Who knows? It's a winery.
I get paid to bench trial wine. That's not too
Somebody
bad.
has to test the wine.
Someone has to taste the wine.
I'm going to raise my hand on that one too.
Yeah.
We'll call you up next time.
We're grateful with your generosity today. I think it's pretty cool. Actually, most of the places we've been to have been so generous. It's so cool. Well, cool. Well, so we're going to talk a little bit about your winery here. Okay, it's fantastic. So, do you ship wines? Is this the one location that you rely on people to come to? Are there appointments? Elaborate on what you have here, so people who are listening, our listeners, can say, "Okay, I want to experience this. What do we have available?"
So the trademark of this winery is its setting, because of the fact that we decided to build the winery and our vineyard here on the grounds. We don't have a huge vineyard. We have a 2-acre vineyard, because I learned very early on I couldn't do everything. I couldn't be the vineyard manager. I couldn't be the winemaker. I couldn't be the business owner and manager, et cetera, et cetera. So I had to decide, how is this going to evolve? And so eventually I brought on a vineyard manager, and he's taken on managing the fruit process and whatnot. And I know my hat is off to Grayson and his dad for everything that they've done. I'm telling you, Howard Davies has the greenest thumb in North Texas.
Interesting.
Especially with,
He sure does.
with his Chardonnay
Oh my
and
gosh.
the way that they've evolved in that. You know, if I was 30 years younger, that's what I would want to be. But I'm not, because this business is not an old man's game.
Well, you seem to be doing just fine, Mark.
Well, you know.
He just turned 70 on Thursday.
Oh,
Yeah.
70.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, salute. That's amazing.
So we had you know, it's just been it's been an interesting evolution, because as we've grown, we've also been ingrained in the community. Alvord is a small community, doesn't have a lot of businesses downtown. It's not a booming thing. I got on the EDC, Economic Development Council, to help try and get the city to grow and whatnot. But my point is, they didn't have an event center. They didn't have any place where they could hold a meeting. The fire department was moving to another place. National Forest guys didn't have any place to do wildfire preparedness. So we built an event center.
Oh, perfect.
So that we can have community meetings. And that's how it kind of started, you know, and then it evolved into other attractions for, you know, God forbid, weddings, or,
He hates weddings.
Yeah,
Can you
was it
tell?
God forbid
or
weddings?
birthdays, or retirements, or, you know, you name it, what have you. And here in Wise County, we've tried to position ourselves to be, what do you need, right? What do you need?
That's great.
Do you need support with this? You need support with that? Is it money? It's not always money. It's labor. It's other types of help, or what have you.
Absolutely.
It's Casey and her son reaching out and helping Habitat for Humanity. You know, whatever it is. A lot of the wineries do that. A lot of them can't do it because they're restricted with manpower or whatnot. We're all in that regard.
To this whole community, right? That's pretty awesome. They're here to uplift that community like that.
That's interesting, which leads into my next thing here. I actually saw that y'all are doing a conservation for quail and dove out here.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so,
Oh,
does
you
that mean,
dug deep.
does that mean I can bring my shotgun out here?
No,
The opposite.
Negative.
the short story on that is that when we bought this property in 2005, it had been overgrazed by cattle, and a lot of the natural grasses had been basically turned to dust. So, and I give my wife all the credit in the world. She took the lead, because we didn't want to make little horses and we didn't want to run cattle. And so she got on the state program to get our wildlife exemption. And it's the same thing as an ag exemption, except you have to do different things. And so she did all that research, and she did all the planning, and she met with we had to hire a wildlife consultant, et cetera, before we could present it to the county. And I will say this because it's public knowledge or what have you. So when she walked into the county to present our case to get a wildlife exemption, the then local official, who I will not say his name, said, "Well, little lady, why don't you bring your husband here? We'll see if we can work that out."
Wow.
And that was the wrong thing to say.
Yeah, to Becky, who we met. She's
Yeah.
a tough lady. You can tell
Wow.
she's got some
Yeah.
spirit too.
So anyway, we got our wildlife exemption, and we talked to the Texas Parks and Wildlife at the time, and they said, "You know, why don't you build quail and habitats, if you will?" So because the quail population as well as the dove population had diminished because of fire ants and because of overhunting, frankly.
Yeah.
And so we got that going, built those habitats, did some population studies over time. It's more her thing than mine, and I'm just telling you. But then she also did a thing with bluebirds where we put up bluebird habitats throughout here, and we got the grasslands to agree to allow us to put some. Basically, it's where they lay their eggs.
That's outstanding. Yeah.
That is amazing.
And so, I mean, it's just kind of been an evolutionary thing.
Sure.
And now, just a side note, because I want to give some kudos to the North Texas Spaniel Club comes out because we let the grasses go natural outside of the winery in our house. The North Texas Spaniel Club comes out and does trials with their pups on whether it's shooting and retrieving, or whether doing water retrieving or what have you. It's just another way. We love living out here, and as a result of what is available to us, we're stewards of the land in the right way.
Right.
That's probably one of the most fascinating things I have heard from every winery that we've talked to. They always do something to conserve the land.
Of course.
It's just.
But this is bigger. This is actually pretty outstanding.
Yeah,
it's probably of all of them. It's probably the biggest projects. I mean, it's multi-use, multi-talented
Yeah.
project. It's just so broad.
I commend you for what you're doing out here.
And he's awake. Look, he's awake. I'm surprised. That's amazing.
But it's just, I don't even have the words for it, because it's just amazing that you're doing that kind of stuff.
Well, I think it's great. Good people in the world doing good things.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, I have a couple more questions. How are we doing on time, my friend?
Yeah, we got enough time.
Good. Oh, here we go. So this is the big one, you guys. And so I ask a
ready for
lot
this?
get ready. Saddle, and you got your seatbelts on? All right, here we go.
I need more Kool-Aid.
Yeah, you might.
Well, let's start with Casey. And Mark, I want you to compliment as well on this.
Make sure everybody gets some Kool-Aid in their glasses first. Do you need some Kool-Aid?
No, I've got some Kool-Aid. I'm doing well in the Kool-Aid department. And so, and I'm enjoying it very much, by the way. Every time someone says Kool-Aid, I think of that figure back in wasn't it the Kool-Aid, the
man.
Kool-Aid man? What was it?
It's like
Kool-Aid
the Pillsbury Dough
That's
Man,
what it
but
was.
Kool-Aid, yeah.
Kool-Aid man. I always think of that. So, Willamette Valley girl, you've been over on the West Coast. And so I've been all throughout the West Coast and looking at wines, and my wife and I have traveled extensively over there. And Napa Valley is awesome. Sonoma Valley, awesome. But we've heard through the grapevine, no pun intended, that Washington, Oregon will be the next Napa Valley. I have been traveling around Texas for the last couple of years, enjoying the amazing, amazing wines. What are your thoughts, and this might be out there, on Texas and what Texas is doing right now in the wine industry, and how does it compare to your home, Willamette Valley, where you grew up, as well as the California wines, Washingtonian wines, and some of the things happen there? How is Texas doing, Casey?
It's been an eye-opening experience growing up in such a original place for wine growing and wine tasting. Texas is not there yet. Do I think it will be one day? Probably.
Okay.
I went to Fredericksburg last year and saw the possibility. But when you grow up in a place like Willamette Valley, and you grow up wine tasting in Willamette Valley and going to all these wineries, they are some of these big ones in Fredericksburg. They are Becker on steroids. They are these beautiful, stunning stateside vineyards and wineries, right? You walk in and there is no money spared.
No flaw.
There is no flaw. You feel like you are out to high tea for the day, and it's a whole day experience. And the problem here in North Texas that I find, especially where we are, is you're trying to drive 30 minutes between wineries to get to where you want to go. And that's hard to make a day of it.
Well, in a day, I mean, you can do 2 or 3. I mean, realistically, right?
That's right.
4.
If you really try,
right,
you know.
If you have the Texas Wine Lover app, you wouldn't have to worry about that.
Well, shout out. Yeah, shout out.
to
Jeff Coe.
Texas wine
Yeah.
lovers.
But I mean, falling into this place is the most perfect example. Did I ever imagine to find a winery in the middle of Alvord, Texas that had great wine? No, I was kind of scared to walk in on the first day.
Because you've walked into some small ones that the wine isn't that good. But
Correct.
the glasses we've had so far, I just saw your look. You're doing the third glass already, Will. They're fantastic. I mean, that is an ultimate compliment.
Don't say that. I'm not doing a third.
Oh, that's
glass.
right.
This is just the third refill.
Okay, I got you. Refill, not glasses. So you feel that Texas has potential, and you see the value of what people are doing here, and it's just so awesome. We're having such a great time with this podcast, meeting people. But Mark, do you agree that Texas, the future is looking very, very good for the wine industry?
Absolutely. But I'm a historian, so I tend to give you more background than you want to know. So when I got into this business, Texas wine didn't have the greatest reputation. There were a lot of flaws, especially in the red wines that were being produced at the time, in my opinion. So at the time that I got my permit in 2011, we didn't open the tasting room until 2012. I was the 125th winery in the state. So
you were the 125th winery in the state.
Oh yeah,
I know where this is going.
Yeah, and so we flash forward to I was at the Texas Wine and Grape Growers Association meeting in San Marcos earlier last week, and the officials from our industry announced that even though they had surpassed the 800th winery permit at the end of the year, and then since the first of the year, 65 new wineries have now been permitted, right? So you see this explosion of growth, and some of the older people that have been in this industry going back to the late 70s and early 80s would tell you we don't have enough grapes in the state.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
We can't sustain unless we get more growers involved in expanding the amount of acreage of vineyards. That's a bad problem to have. It's a great problem to have. Now, from when I first got involved in this until now, the quality of the wine being produced in the state by people like Grayson Davies and people with a younger resume and who know how to handle sanitation and how to handle quality and all these things, our industry is still a very young cottage industry, in my opinion.
Okay.
And it's evolving, and it'll she will inherit our legacy, but what she's involved in, they will produce much better quality wine than we're doing today, and we're okay. I mean, I'm good with that.
Okay.
When we were doing Bingham, Jen brought up a really interesting statistic, and she said before pre-COVID, there was only like 450 wineries in Texas. Mm-hmm. And then after COVID, we hit 900.
Everyone can make wine now.
Everyone's
doing it.
Everyone's doing it.
But if you go to the Hill Country, and not to cut you off, but if you do go to the Hill Country, because that's where the explosion of growth has been,
yes.
Right? Because of population,
yep.
because of attraction, and all those reasons. There are on your wine trail of whatever you're doing. There are a multitude of wineries that are bringing in juice from California or bringing in juice from elsewhere. Mm-hmm. There's one specifically that we know that they import everything from Europe and whatnot, but they're still selling wine. And are they doing a great job? Yes, and whatnot. But it's a different thing.
Okay. It sounds delicate to me. It's fragile almost. It's the first time we've kind of heard that maybe the resources are limited here in Texas.
Yeah,
and I thought with the vast, but farming's probably got to be the most difficult part of all this. And you guys know. And so finding the people who are dedicated and willing to sacrifice and pay the price to do that is going to be the missing link. Yep. We have great people with innovation and creativity and enthusiasm. It's just finding the farmland.
What's interesting is that what you just commented about Fredericksburg. I remember going as a kid to Fredericksburg. And there was no wineries there. I mean, maybe one or two wineries there. Yeah. And now when we go to Fredericksburg, it's all the all the nice little stores, like the antique stores and all that, have closed down, and now they're become breweries or microbreweries.
Well, that's what attracts everybody.
That's what's bringing in.
Yeah. And
I get that. You got to do what the population is wanting.
Well, my wife ran the half marathon down there, and I just drank wine the whole time she ran. So why wouldn't I want to go there and drink wine? Yes.
I feel like I would have been with you on that one.
Yeah.
It's always good to know your place.
Yeah. Right. But it's just interesting how things have changed so much since the 80s to now.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, well, that's amazing. So my last question of the day is pretty simple, and that is, listen, you guys, you have something special here. I'm very impressed. I'm almost emotional thinking about the good people we've met in the last month and a half doing this, and you guys are no exception. You guys are amazing. But if I come back in 5 years, and trust me, I'll be back in like 5 minutes, but let's say I come back in 5 years, what can I expect, Mark?
Ooh.
I'm glad you teed me up first.
Yeah, I threw you under the bus, and Casey gets to follow up.
Okay, so full disclosure,
Yep.
My children don't have a passion for this business, and so when Casey walked in to our lives, my idea was to have someone to be able to pass my legacy to. This property is very, very special. But at some time, since I just passed my 70th year,
Congratulations.
Yahoo.
I know that I'm not going to be able to maintain this thing forever, and we don't want to sell it. There are several, I would tell you, and you can look at Texas Wine Lovers, some folks who have been in this industry for longer than I have decided to shuttle their doors because of advancing age and no
Legacy.
no legacy, right?
Yep.
I don't want that to happen. So the plan here is we will always produce wine here. We will always do events for the community. We will always support our surrounding area and our veterans and all of that. But one of these days, I want to be able to shut the gate and go fishing.
Yahoo.
And, that's part of the deal.
Well, you have Casey here that can leave the gates open for you and let you still go fishing.
Which is
He learned that over the summer, actually.
so here's the segue, right?
Yep.
That's why we're doing what we're doing. And I've got customers who are bittersweet about that. I've got customers who are very, 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 very supportive about that. So at some point, and we don't have a timetable, we will shut the gate to the public, but we'll always do special events here, vineyard events when we do harvest, dinners. We have some spectacular wine and food pairing and wine and cheese pairing events. We have a chef who is out of this world that is a part of our family, and he does an excellent job. He and Casey work very, very, very well together, and so we want to continue this, and I will do what they tell me to do.
What are the odds?
Yeah, what are the odds?
That Mark and Becky found Casey. That's pretty lucky. I think you're blessed, right?
You're gonna make me
and
cry
it's
on
almost,
the
well, making me
podcast.
cry. I'm thinking about the legacy, but the family and almost like the adoption process. What has happened here? It's pretty cool.
Right, yeah, I like that. I'm speechless, actually.
Don't get me emotional, Will.
No, Will.
Only Casey and I are allowed to cry right now. All right.
Drink
so that's
more.
pretty cool. So Casey, continue on. I mean, you obviously have a great mentor, a great friend. He's basically a father figure to
He
you,
is,
probably.
yeah.
And so, what is your vision next 5 years, and how can you contribute to that? And you're obviously doing that already. But what's happening here?
Yeah, I mean, we just had an article come out in the Wise County Messenger, and it said, I'm going to bring Markers Cellars into 2023 and forward. And I stand by that. Markers Cellars, as it is out here, cannot continue the way it is. We've got to be where the people are. We've got to be where the young people are walking around downtown and can pop in and learn about wine. And I want to be the person that can take them in and teach them. Right? Mark got to do that for 10 years. It's my turn. And he doesn't have to be there because I've learned so much. And I came with a good background too. And I'm very happy to do that. Mark will always be Mark Rogers. Markers Cellars will always be Mark Rogers.
Right.
But the face is shifting a little bit, which has turned some blankets over a little bit.
I gotcha.
But Mark will always be the face of the winery.
Well, he introduced himself as the patriarch of this winery, and so that's so appropriate, right? That's so appropriate. It's beautiful. You've done a good job, Mark.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Well, cool. Well, listen, Casey, why don't you wrap it up? How do we reach you? How do my listeners come out and find you? How can we physically find you as well as online?
Yeah, so we are in a transition period. We'll be in Alvord out here at the original location for at least a couple more months, and then I'll do a big push on social and whatnot to let y'all know when we're moving to Bridgeport and open there. But website, markerscellars.com, and I've got an event calendar on there that kind of outlines what's coming up. and things happening around the winery. Facebook, Instagram, I run those. So say hi to me if you're a follower. Okay. But I try to keep those very active and up to date with what we're doing in events and things like that.
In today's world, that's so appropriate,
Awesome.
right? Yeah, good. Well, we appreciate you guys and everything from horse watching to drinking good wine to visiting good people, including veterans. We're excited about that.
And it's even one thing we didn't even touch on because this is my favorite stuff. It's the cigars, but
well, we can talk about that later.
Those will be in Bridgeport too, so we're taking those with us.
It's a whole different story.
Yeah.
we realize that.
Will, why don't we wrap this segment up? Because I know we have a part 2 segment of education we're going to talk about with Mark. It's really going to be short and simple and fun. And then we'll do our takeaways as well. Does that sound fun?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you guys, your listeners. You're amazing. Thanks for all the feedback on Facebook and all the great feedback we're getting. We have a great people here with Mark and Becky and Casey, and we're just so excited. It's been one of my highlights easily of the month coming out here to Markers Cellars Family Winery.
Yes. So we appreciate y'all letting us come out here.
Okay.
Thank you.
And having a chat with us.
Yeah, well, stay tuned for part 2, our educational segment.
Yes, sir. Cheers.
Well, hi, listeners. Welcome back to We Know Texas Vino. This is your host, Michael. Hey, we are so excited to share this next segment, the educational edition of our podcast. If you have any ideas or topics that you would like to learn about, or you want to hear from a wine enthusiast, please reach out to us, and especially on We Know Texas Vino on Facebook. Listen, folks, grab a glass and let's saddle in for this next segment. Cheers. And welcome back, everyone, to the educational portion of our podcast. We're so excited for our listeners as well. Will, great job today. I'm proud of you, buddy.
Yes, I have to say that I've really had a great time here.
Yeah, this has been special.
This has been a very emotional episode.
Yeah, so we took a little break, mostly to clear our tears and to do some other things. Yeah, but Mark and Casey have been great. We met Becky earlier as well. She's out walking the horses right now. I might meet a horse here in a moment, actually. And so we're going to do an educational portion here real quick. So I'm going to take charge today and have some fun with that. Is that cool?
Yeah, hey, go for it.
Cool. Well, Mark, I'm going to pick your brain real quick, buddy. Okay. So, one of the things we do in educational, it's simple and yet it's so important for people to understand that. We've done things like, why do you swirl your wine? Why do you do all these sort of things? But today we're going to talk about corking the wine bottle as opposed to those silly little twist-offs. Although we've noticed recently a lot of wineries are going to the twist-off. So, Mark, why don't you tell us what you know about that?
Before you started that,
yes,
I want to say that New Zealand has actually the one who started this whole screw top on.
Yes.
New Zealanders.
Yes. So now go ahead with that being said, because they're not American.
Well, you know what? My reputation is I'm pretty much an international guy. I've never been outside the United States except to Mexico and the Caribbean and whatnot. But I've done a lot of research by opening wine bottles. And one of the fascinations I had was when my oldest daughter went to New Zealand to study abroad. And she was reporting back to me things that were important as it relates to the wine industry. And so I started buying wine from New Zealand and Australia, and lo and behold, the white wines predominantly had screw tops.
Oh, okay.
So that had nothing to do with that, and that was pre-opening this facility up and doing all that sort of thing. I'm going to give you the first disclaimer.
Oh, there's dead air. Disclaimer, that's scary.
I had a mouthful when you said that, and I'm trying to keep
There's usually a few disclaimers.
We have a rule, no spitting wine on each other. So
Okay.
Go ahead now. Your disclaimer.
So I mean, my perspective is, if I could make everything a screw top, because I'm an environmental guy, I have no issue with that whatsoever.
That's fair enough.
Is that part of it though, Mark? Or do you think it's an environmental thing? Like people are just more aware of the scarcity of cork and
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's just start there.
okay.
Water and corks are diminishing return.
Yes.
Our environment is being used up, and this is I'll get on my soapbox for.
It's a soapbox, and I love it, but you're 100% correct.
My girls have been brought up to understand that everything that we use gets used up.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you recycle it. And if you can recycle it, then you do the best you can. It's just like shooting animals. I'm not a shooting guy. I don't kill birds. I don't kill kill deer. That's just not my deal.
You just kill a bottle of wine.
Exactly.
Yahoo.
And glass is made from sand, right? We have lots of sand. We're going to have lots of sand.
Yes.
Sand gets remade every day, every time. Anyway, so when I started exploring screw tops versus corks, I found no difference, especially with white wines. It's a lineage thing.
Okay.
And so how the European continent evolved to the United States, and how Spain and Africa, we all thought we had to cork those bottles because the Egyptians told us so. And that is just my thing, that me personally. You can age a cab in sealed cap. You can age a cab in a cork. What happens with the cork? The cork breaks down over time. I tell people all the time, if you have a 10-year-old bottle of cab sitting in your home and whatnot, you might want to bring it to me, and I would love to recork it for you.
I'll recork it. Interesting.
Oh.
Because that cork breaks down.
Sure, absolutely does.
Huh.
It's air. It's life of the cork, because the cork is alive. It's still, and it's porous. But then there's the marketing aspect of it, right? And it's the connotation of, how do I transition this person understanding how, it's got a cork. So I'll give you a great example. We have, where's the blend?
It's around.
Is it over there?
Okay, so
right.
so this we have a
She's hoarding it over
particular
there.
series that we don't cap.
Okay.
We just put the cork in. We
That's
want
it.
you to see the logo on the top. Arcade does that. Blue does that some. And calls back. This didn't have a cap on it. I got it home and it didn't have a cap on it. Does that mean it's still sealed? And
Oh, interesting.
the cap has nothing. It's a marketing thing.
Sure.
It's just
It's
a
a
cap
pretty
to,
thing.
to make it look
pretty.
like it's a finished product and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm pro screw cap.
Okay.
Have been for a long time.
So I'm seeing more of it than ever now, and certainly you walk through a supermarket or whatever, or a liquor store, you see more caps for sure. But the cork thing, I think, is more historical, right? You come from Europe
absolutely.
and that sort of thing. So I think there's a lot of peer pressure to keep the cork thing going, but we know there's a lack of cork in this world right now. We've read that many, many times,
Yes.
and so I think people are becoming more aware of that.
Yeah, it's a lot of people say about the cork, that they want the nostalgic of a cork,
Sure.
but
They want to smell it. They want to
Yes.
see the
But-
stain on the top.
Yeah.
that sort of
but smelling the cork and seeing the stain, that has nothing to do with the way that it tastes at all. Which I've actually learned on my own, because you see all those pretentious people.
Pretentious.
That
That's the
will-
word you stole from me, my friend.
Yes,
That is my word.
but no, I actually stole it from another podcast. But I mean, you see people pull the
There's a
cork out. But they pull the cork out and they want to sit there and smell it and kind of like
Right.
gaze on it. But you know what? You can't judge the wine from the cork, and I've learned that.
No doubt.
You
Yeah.
can't, but at the same time, and we're different generations here. I'm the younger generation of the two of us, obviously. I love a cork.
I'm not going to lie. Just starting to drink wine myself, I love the cork.
I love the
It just-
sound of it popping.
Yes.
I love the smell of it coming
There's something
out.
nostalgic about
Yes,
the cork.
there-
I mean,
there-
no doubt. Which is the reason I asked that question, but I knew Mark would have some great
So-
intuitions
so
about
I think
that.
it's- they're a cork, actually.
So the happy medium with this
Yeah.
is, and my hat is off to New Zealand first,
Yes.
then South Africa, for the way that they approach that. So it's a half and half world, pretty much. You can get away, I think, with doing any white with a screw cap.
Okay.
Whites don't age.
Right.
We make whites quick, and they don't age. They have a short shelf life, and then you go on to the next thing. Right. Reds are different. They have a different tradition. They have a different lineage, history, to Casey's point, and the ambiance about uncorking this Lightning cab that is barrel 32 is unique to the customer. It's to the end consumer, et cetera, et cetera. And I truly believe that's important. But like I said, if I could, in a perfect world, I have no problem.
I just have one question, really. As Mark, are you adopting And if you're adopting, I would be very interested in being a candidate for that.
No, I'm
so,
the last member.
Oh, you're the last member.
Are you the
Dang it,
last
Casey.
member?
Casey is special. I like her.
Wait a minute. I thought you was going to get
Well-
asked by Roxanne to get adopted by
Well,
her.
I will adopt many people, but I'm looking to be adopted at this moment. So, well, listen.
Well, I want to make a comment
Okay.
on the
Yes,
whole
sir.
screw cap and stuff. It's New Zealand has tested multiple theories on this. How the screw cap versus the cork actually allows less oxygen into, or let me say, the air into the wine.
Yeah.
And to me, when they said that when you screw a cap on, you're allowing less air into the bottle. And
That's a
I'm
good
sitting,
thing.
and I'm literally sitting there thinking, I'm trying to figure out that math there, because when
This
you
is porous.
yes, it is porous, and that is where I was going with, because the cap, when you screw it on, it's not porous, while the cork is. That's why you go in with a vacuum.
I think you're real quick though.
No,
I
please.
mean, there's a whole nother argument here because I'm factual, right? There's an economical piece to this.
Yep.
A small winery like us can't necessarily run out and buy the equipment that we would need to switch to screw top.
Right.
And I think that's an important piece for people to understand. It's not so simple as just, we're going through the process and we're screwing the cap on and cool, send it a day and buy our bottle. We have a corking machine right now, which is right behind Will, and we can't necessarily go out and buy that screw top
Right.
machine.
Yeah.
So that's a transition in a bigger sense than just a simple.
Well, there's an
switch.
economic value to everything
Yes.
you do, right? And so whether it's the bottles or even just the harvesting, there's certain things we do to be more efficient, but the
Right.
corks seem more efficient.
Yeah.
It's just there's an issue with that, and we've read that several times.
Again, it goes back to the nostalgic thing.
Yeah.
We're all about nostalgic stuff nowadays.
History is important.
Yep.
There's no
It
doubt
is
about
important.
Yeah.
Well, even bottles. But, we appreciate that. And thank you for educating our listeners
Yes,
for sure. But,
thank you.
Mark, you also want to talk about one of your spectacular wines. Do you
Yes.
want to comment on that real quick to kind of wrap it up today?
So we make what is called a lightning cab. This relationship started about 4 years ago with some folks that came to. We have an annual party in October to
We'll be here.
celebrate the,
You'll be
the
in
wine club
Bridgeport.
members and whatnot. And a friend of ours who owns Ezra Zion Cigars brought some folks from his church in South Lake, and they approached me and they said, "Hey, Mark, we're starting a new distillery here soon, and we'd like you to come help us with our first bottling. Our name is Oak and Eden, and there's a lot of biblical stuff behind all of that, and it's a fantastic story, and they're fantastic folks." So anyway, that was October. Following May, I went to their first bottling. We bottled 16 barrels of bourbon and 16 barrels of rye, and at the end of that day, I brought home 11 wet whiskey barrels.
That's a heaven.
The interesting thing about that phenomena is that after I unloaded those barrels, which I did manually myself, about the next day, down in the bottom of each barrel was about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of bourbon that had been in the staves of the barrel, right, that had accumulated. And we took 6 of those barrels and pumped our cab into that body. And I didn't know what I was doing. It was a new experience for us. So I thought about making that experience happen and whatnot. And so we did that, put them away, put the other barrels, the dry barrels that were still had stuff in them, in another place, and let them sit. About 30 days later, I go and I test each barrel individually, just a tad, and I'm going, wow, something's happening here.
Yeah, I think I'm drinking it right now.
You know,
It's pretty good.
You know, it's that little pause.
So immediately, I start freaking out just a little bit, only because the bourbon characteristics are starting to really penetrate the cab characteristics. And in 30 days, I thought this would be a 6-month process, but in 30 days it was that fast.
Wow.
And started freaking out a little bit. Called a couple of people, one on the West Coast, somebody local, and going, "What's happening here?" And they said, "Well, okay, Mark, step off the ledge. you're okay. Don't freak out. One of the guys in California had done it before, and he said, you need to let this go about 75 to 90 days, and this is aged cab. It's already been in oak for 9 months. So we're talking about mature cab. And so we did that, and so then we did exactly what I described before. We took each barrel and we bottled them individually, one at a time, through the first 6. Wrote the name on the back, barrel 1, barrel 2, barrel 3, whatever, and turned our patrons on to samples of that stuff to get their feedback. And they're going, yeah.
You and I are pretty impressed with that.
This is different.
You notice how you and I had that quick moment of pause? Because, I mean,
we
I'm
do
not
that a
gonna
lot,
lie,
though.
That is, I don't even know how to describe.
Well, I want to drink it. I want to drink it more.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just something about it. It's just I just finished a glass of it.
Do
It's
you
great.
have a bottle straw?
So if I can, so if I can make one statement, and again, we're small. We're a boutique, and Casey knows what our limitations are with what we do and whatnot. The difference is, in my mind, we're not Mondavi. We're not any of the big shops out of California or whatever. They're making 50,000 gallons or something like this. We're giving the love and passion and respect to one barrel at a time. I know that's small. I know it doesn't play in the big market and whatnot. But I guarantee that the quality will always be there as long as we continue to do it. And because of our relationship with Oak and Eden, the distillery I mentioned that's in Bridgeport, where
2 doors down.
We're moving down.
Yes,
We're
awesome.
moving to. And there's a reason for that, because they love us, we love them, and it worked out. That's going to be one of our constant products as we move forward to the new millennium.
I call it our flagship. It's not going anywhere.
I don't want to bash any wineries or anything.
No, please don't.
We don't
want to lose listeners.
But I mean, because we do have people in California that listen to our podcast.
No,
and
no,
stuff,
I get
And Germany.
I get
and
that.
Germany. But the one thing I love about Texas wine, yes, y'all don't produce 50 gallons of wine like as you stated.
50,000 gallons.
You're right, 50. That's big
50,000,
time.
But when you produce it in small numbers that you do, you have more heart into the wine that you're making,
Of course.
and you have more love to it.
I call it sweat equity. There's something about putting everything you have into this amazing barrel of wine.
And so it's a unique bottle. I mean, yes, you're making a bottle that you're doing it every year, but every year it tastes different from the year before.
There's no
Every
doubt about
barrel
that.
tastes different for
Yes,
this
every
particular
glass.
one.
barrel.
There is no way to get if you're making those mass quantities, you cannot get the same consistency and production.
Exactly.
and flavors
Fingerprints.
and whatnot.
Can't do it.
Yep.
Can't duplicate it.
So, we deal with what we got and move on.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for that
Yes.
educational
Thank you,
opportunity.
Mark.
I feel very blessed. I've learned a lot, right? So we'll be back in a minute and we'll wrap it up, Will. Does it sound good to you?
Where we're going?
Well, you want to do a pause and head out? Look at that look. That's our pause. So we're closing out the educational portion and then we're going to be back in a minute.
Yeah, we're done.
Cheers. Well, we appreciate you guys being here today. What a great podcast we've had out here. And it's just a wonderful time, Will.
This is probably one of the most emotional
Emotional.
podcasts we've done to this day.
When I signed up, I did not want any emotionalism
I know,
attached to these podcasts.
It's
And here
funny.
we are. I mean, there's these great people out here and we're emotional.
You show zero emotion.
I am a zero. I sucked it up today, buddy.
I know, but actually, I think I saw a tear.
No tears. But, well, why don't you, Will, because you're the magician here, why don't you tell us where folks can reach us and where in
Well-
the future we've had some great successes lately. Where can people reach out to us?
So you can find us actually on Facebook at We Know Texas Vino.
Yep.
And go to either Apple or Stitcher or Spotify and find our podcast at We Know Texas Vino. And Casey, can you tell everybody where we can find you at?
I sure can. Markerscellars.com. Give us a call. It's to my cell phone, and then Instagram and Facebook.
Ooh,
Awesome.
cell phone, text messages, 4 a.m.
Come
It'll be
straight
great.
to me.
I love it. Well, we're happy to be here at Markers Cellars Family Winery
Yes.
with Casey, of course, who's just a little fireball, and then Mark and Becky. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
spending
so
time with
much.
us today.
I really enjoyed it today.
Yeah,
Thank
it was
you,
fun.
Mark, for having us.
I think it was life-changing, actually.
Yes.
Here's something. So my takeaway today, Will, is I'm going to kind of just bring it all together.
Yes,
Everything I've
do it
experienced
for
so
us.
far. And we have met the neatest people. Absolutely fantastic fantastic people the last couple weeks and I guess month and a half we've been doing this. But we're just so blessed to meet these great
Yes.
people today, and it almost like enhances what we're trying to
Yes.
accomplish here. We want to showcase these wineries and these winemakers. So for me, my takeaway is just the good people doing amazing things in the wine industry here in Texas. I feel very lucky to be here now.
Yeah. Yep. So I agree with you on that 100%.
That's your takeaway.
Yes, sir.
Man, you are easy. All
100%.
right, very good. Well, you know, I have a couple quotes that each week I like to close out with. So
Yes.
I have two of them actually this week. I did one, which I hope will make you smile, Will, because you have a great smile. Wine improves with age. I improve with wine. That is my quote to make you smile, and you are smiling. And the other one I saw the other day, I just had to say it, is no poem was ever written about drinkers of water. And I think that is a great, great quote because you think about all of the great, great poems that we've read. Thank you, Will. Appreciate that very much. So anyway, we're excited.
Yes.
This is a longer podcast, so we're excited to do it. We've met great people here, and we just want to continue to showcase the great wineries here in Texas. And so any closing statements?
You know, I'm actually speechless for once.
You're speechless for
I'm
once.
Speechless.
Because you are a talker.
I am talking.
I love it, buddy. Well, listen, another day, another glass of wine. Cheers from Markers Cellars Family Winery in Alvord,
Alvord.
Texas.
Thank you, sir.
So
Cheers.
Cheers.
appreciate it.